Welcome to Lazy Cinema, and on this episode we have Will Smith versus Will Smith in the fight of his life, as an ex-assassin must go back on the run again, and this hit directed by Ang Lee, and this hit directed by Ang Lee, the Gemini Man. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Lazy Cinema. And today we're talking about the movie Gemini Man, directed by Ang Lee and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. And needless to say is that this movie, for me anyways, was not that great. The movie stars Will Smith as Henry Brogan, an ex-assassin slash hitman who wants to retire, but sadly if he retires, then everything goes to shit, and he has to stop an assassin also played by himself. This movie is bad and terrible in a lot of unnecessary ways, and I can tell you one of the biggest ways that it is bad is that it really doesn't need the story that it does. I mean, really, Henry Brogan is an interesting character. Maybe that's just because Will Smith is a great actor, but when you get to know or understand the character, it's really like a bunch of Will Smith's other characters from other movies just combined into one. And it really doesn't make sense when you see him trying to do all these other characters that he is famously known for. Now, this movie has a pretty good all-star cast for an Ang Lee movie, such as Doctor Strange co-star Benedict Wong, Clive Owen, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who all do a fantastic performance in this. But needless to say, though, is that none of their performances are above par. In fact, a lot of them are like below or just average. And for a movie like this, that does seem different, if that makes sense. And I believe that the real reason behind this is because this is directed by Ang Lee, who directed the 2003 film Hulk. And in that film, there wasn't a good story either, or at least there was a good setup, but I guess because of director Ang Lee, is that it didn't feel very finished, and this film definitely doesn't feel finished. They go for a Batman Beyond type of story, so that should at least give you an idea what to expect in this. And when they kind of revealed that about why there is another Will Smith going after him, I kind of let out a big, huge sigh, knowing that it's kind of a dumb thing. There was another assassin, but I'm not going to say who he's played by, but the reason why they did all this is bullshittery. You know how in Batman Beyond the reason was because the world needed another Batman? In this movie, it's a lot different and it feels a lot unnecessary in this. Especially seeing Benedict Wong in this, because the last time that I saw Benedict Wong was for a short time in Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if he's going to appear in the next Doctor Strange film or not, but he was my favorite character in this, and especially because of a scene where he sings along to a Ray Charles song, honestly was pretty funny in my opinion. I do like the relationship that they were trying to set up with Mary Elizabeth Winstead and also Will Smith, um, trying to give them something, and they have a good chemistry, but it also feels a little bit too forced, if that makes sense, in that they were trying to tack this in as best as they can, especially in a movie like this. And I have to say too that this movie relies a lot on CGI, especially sometimes human CGI, and it really does show, especially since this film came out between 2019 and during the time of the coronavirus pandemic. So it was really tacked on, and it does show, and maybe that's why the story is more rushed than we want it to be, But honestly, this still does not answer a lot of the questions that this movie does not end up falling on. Especially for the character of Henry Brogan, they just throw him into the movie, give him like a cliched soldier backstory, and then just throw in the other Will Smith because. And you know, for a movie like this, it's not really necessary. But I will tell you one thing that could have saved this movie: having the other Will Smith be played by his son Jaden. It's really not that necessary to go through the makeup effects and whatnot to make him look younger, but I do have to say that it looks really good for him, especially in this film where they can take Will Smith how he looks now and transform him into like a 20-year-old version of him, which does actually work in his favor. But in all honesty, if he used his son Jaden, who we last saw in the movie After Earth, it probably would have benefited this movie more than hurt it, in my opinion. But this story was very weak, especially for a plot twist that ends up going, absolutely nowhere because they don't give it a good explanation. There is a good scene in this movie, in fact, when it's Will Smith interrogating himself, and it's an actually well put together scene, and you could definitely feel the emotion that Smith managed to pull off on his own and make it his own, which felt very needed in a movie like this, but it certainly is very tacked on at last minute kind of feel thing. I mean, but don't get me wrong, Will Smith is an actual performer. He's an excellent star. But especially in this movie, when you first see him, and especially how he's portrayed in this movie, it feels like that they're trying to encapture the like the character of Deadshot that he played in Suicide Squad, especially since his last blockbuster comeback was Bad Boys, you know, and that this definitely does not capture what his last performance was. It definitely feels like one of his worst performances, and that might not be Will Smith's fault, but instead the director Ang Lee's fault. Now, I do like how he does bring back the look that he did have in the movie 7 Pounds, which I did enjoy him in, but it also feels like why go through all the extra effort to, go through all this makeup and whatnot. But the makeup effects do look good, but the CGI and that Ang Lee decided to use is bad. I know that they used motion capture when they did the Hulk. I don't know if they used the same thing here, but a lot of it you definitely can recognize, and it does look bad. If you want an example, think about early Xbox PlayStation 2 days, like cutscene wise, and that should give you about a good idea of what it would look like in this film. And this is definitely one of the worst Will Smith movies that I've seen, especially with the legacy that this man has, like Bad Boys, Independence Day, Pursuit of Happiness, I Am Legend, 7 Pounds, including the I forget what the one about when he's a doctor undergoing studies about football drama, but this one definitely does not do him justice, and it really does feel left out, especially for all the actors. Clive Owen as the villain, though, really, he's trying his best, but it seems like he's a little bit too hammy, especially when he's trying to give like a really good dramatic performance later on in the film, and it really doesn't feel like it's Clive Owen giving his best, because if you see the look on his face, he doesn't own up to the villain that he's supposed to portray, especially because it comes in too much late in the film. If it came in earlier, then it would have probably maybe had this movie been a good one for me, but because it came in like last minute, it really sucks. And the last thing that this movie suffers from is that the story doesn't really take off until an hour in an already 2 hour long film. Yes, and that hurts it more than it helps it. So, above all, I believe that Gemini Man could have been better, and sadly was really weakened, especially from two iconic legends working together, such as Jerry Bruckheimer and Ian Lee. And sadly, the performance here was just not on par. The directing is not that great. The story is very loosely tied in, especially trying to speed it up, and maybe again that's due to the pandemic that we had. But all in all, Gemini Man is a film that could have been better, and sadly did not pay off in the end. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this installment. If you liked it, please do me a favor and be a hitman towards that like and subscribe button. And also, while you're here, why don't you try to check out some of the other videos that I have done for other movies that I have assassinated. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lady Universe saying thank you for watching this installment of Lazy Cinema, and I'll see you all next time.